Welcome back to another episode of Harmonious at Lunch, the show that fuels your business success. I'm Brandon Gano, your host and guide through the world of harmonious business growth. Today, we're unlocking powerful strategies with industry experts to help your business thrive. If you're a business owner, entrepreneur, or executive, you are in the right place. Join me and our incredible guests today on the journey to clarity, growth, and success. It is time to revolutionize your approach to business. Let's dive in with another episode of Harmonious at Lunch. Welcome back into some more bite-sized business advice. And we have the episode today that everybody wants. It is the silver bullet. We're going to shortcut your whole life. We're going to show you how to do things in less time. No, I'm kidding. You know, we don't talk about that on this show, but we are going to talk about the importance of thinking about your future now and what that's going to look like long-term. Don't put off your future. I have a very special guest with me today, and we're going to unpack all of this in like 15 minutes. I know that's a lot, right? But welcome to the show, Chad Hufford. Thanks for being here.
Brandon, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me and give me an opportunity to talk to your audience about their future and hopefully getting them to a place where they can do a better job serving their future self and not stealing from that person.
I absolutely love that because I think it's so important to really consider where we're headed and not just where we are right now. Everyone says live in the present, which is awesome. I agree with that, but you can't just ignore the future. Like it will happen. The future will be the present someday, and we have to plan for that. Now, Chad, this conversation seems on paper like it makes a lot of sense. You are a financial planner. You like to plan for the future, but I think how you go about doing that and everything you take into account is a little bit unique. So why are you talking about different things like planning for or taking your health into account, your business, your financial future? Tell me why you take the whole well-rounded person into account, not just the financial aspect of it.
What we're trying to do, Brandon, is help people create a life of abundance. And truly wealthy people, when I say wealth, I'm talking about far beyond just money, but truly wealthy people who experience abundance have to have balance in their life. Because if you have just a ton of money, but you don't have your health, you don't have family, you don't have good relationships, you're not experiencing abundance. In fact, you're probably experiencing a lot of scarcity. You're probably experiencing a lot of anxiety, maybe some fear. And I believe that we can't just focus on money because money is a tool. And I believe money can be a tool to help build a more abundant life, but money by itself, wealth by itself won't do that.
Yeah, I mean, I've personally seen, and I'm talking about like family members who have sacrificed everything and are now in their 60s, late 60s, and they're trying to buy back those things. And they're in a position where people don't even want to talk to them. Where they're trying to buy back relationships, and it's truly impossible. So this is why, personally, I find this conversation so valuable. I'm young enough in my life where I did start to sacrifice those things, as I shared with you before we started recording. But I'm more curious from your perspective. You probably run into a lot of people who are at that point in their lives. They're trying to buy back health, wealth, relationship. Well, not wealth, but relationships, time, and you just can't. So share with me, what are the feelings that you get in dealing with those people? Like, is it regret, remorse? What's the common theme from people who kind of put off some of those things?
Well, there's a lot. There's a lot to unpack there. And I think one of the things that we've done in this culture that's been a disservice to folks is we have treated this idea of retirement like a finish line. Like you're sprinting through, you're running through life, and then when you cross this finish line, then all your wildest dreams come true. And the problem with this idea of financial independence or retirement as a finish line is two things. Number one, what do you do when you cross the finish line? You stop running. And there's a tendency for people to view retirement as like that's the end of the journey. And it's not. It's a whole new chapter. When somebody has financial independence and they have a strong why, they have meaningful purpose, something to pursue beyond their job, beyond their career, beyond maybe even their identity that was wrapped up in whatever profession they were in. If they have some meaningful pursuit beyond that, they still have a lot to chase. They still have a lot to go after that's vitally important for them. But if they viewed financial independence or building wealth as some sort of a finish line, they get to the end of that, and number one, they're looking at, well, is this all there is? And also they're looking back oftentimes wondering, why did I sacrifice so much to get here? Why did I sacrifice my family? Why did I give up so many long nights at the office? We had one guy share with us, retired from one of the oil companies. He said, I've got more money now than I ever thought possible, more money than I need, and nobody to share it with. And so I think you have regret in that sense, but you also have people that are aimless. They've made wealth the objective. They've made wealth the target rather than wealth as a tool to build freedom and abundance in their life, to chase what is most meaningful. But they've chased wealth itself rather than using that as a means to an end. They've treated it as the end in and of itself, and it's very empty. And it's not designed. The journey is not designed for us to sit there on a big pile of money and be happy. It doesn't work that way.
It does in the movies, though. I don't get it. No, I'm just kidding. But I love this conversation, and I want to know from your perspective, from dealing with all these people, what is the mindset shift? How are we? Let's say you're talking to people in their 20s, 30s, 40s. I mean, we have a lot of time, right? Like to get to that supposed finish line that's really not there in our mid 60s. We have time to change the way we think about money, to change the way we use it as a tool, as business owners. And entrepreneurs, what is the shift in our mindset that we need to have now? What's the conversation we need to have with ourselves now, so that when we get to that point, we're just still on the journey? There is no finish line. What do you advise both your clients and really the listeners of this episode that we start doing now?
One of the things that we ask people to consider is, what do you want your life to look like? When you walk away from your career, when you sell your business, what do you want your house to feel like when you walk in the door? What are you going to be doing? What is going to be different about your life then than it is now? And those goals can change. That's okay. But it's envisioning this idea of our future self and coming up with real measurable goals, because wealth, there's no finish line. There's no goal line. There's no referee that throws his hands up at the end that says, all right, touchdown, you made it, you're good. And a lot of times, especially for entrepreneurs, those goalposts can continue to move. And there's never anything or anyone telling us like, okay, you've done enough. And the tendency is to keep driving, keep pushing, but sometimes chasing the wrong things because we aren't clear about what we're even trying to accomplish. We end up chasing other people's dreams, other people's goals, because we don't know what's vitally important for us. So I think taking a step back and saying, when I'm 65 years old or I'm 75 years old, what do I want to be doing? What is the type of person I want to become? And then actually reverse engineering that. And hopefully we do this as business owners. We have a business plan. We look at the things that we're going to be doing in 1 year, 3 years, 5 years. We try to reverse engineer that to where we are today. What are the strategies? What are the tactics? Where do we need to be putting our money and our emphasis and our time and our effort? But a lot of times we don't do that with our whole life. And the business itself can, again, become the goal, become the objective, rather than our business or our wealth or our investing to be a means to an end, a tool that we leverage to produce more freedom and abundance.
Yeah, no, it's a good perspective. And I'm curious how you fully round that out too, because you can't just focus on business or life or wealth like we've been talking about. You have life, you have family, you have those goals. But even I think as business owners, we tend to wrap our goals around what our business looks like. And we don't necessarily take into account our family, our kids, those future relationships. So tell me, for you specifically, I mean, you probably have client stories too, but how do you balance this out with your own personal life to know, like, it's those guardrails, right? Like, I'm not going too far in the direction of business. I'm also not going too far necessarily in the direction of family and sacrificing the business, because you do need both. So how do you set your life up for success in that regard?
A big part of it is boundaries. And I think as business owners, we really need to stress boundaries. And everybody, I mean, boundaries are important for everybody. And not just about boundaries between me and another person. It might be between me and my business, it might be between me and my phone. But having those guardrails set up is vitally important. And everybody's going to be a little bit different. And in different seasons of your life, those boundaries might be different. But knowing knowing when you're available. Are you going to take calls after 6 p.m. or after 8 p.m.? Are you going to check emails at night? Some businesses, maybe they require it. A lot of times business owners tell themselves and they tell their clients that it requires my phone's got to be on 24/7. But then you train your clients to expect that. When we set boundaries that no, I'm available from 8 a.m. on Monday till uh, 5 p.m. on Monday, and then Monday through Friday, or whatever those boundaries are. But having a fence around areas of our life, I think, are very important. So when you're with family, you're with family. That time is precious. It's set aside. When you're focusing on your health, you're exercising. You're not taking calls while you're jogging. You're not trying to type out an email in between sets at the gym. But segregating those different areas of our life, I think, is very important, because in today's society with phones and devices, like everything can intermingle. And people they're doing an email, a work email, then they're checking their Instagram, then they're looking on Amazon, and all these things get kind of mingled together. And we don't have clear distinctions between I am at work, I am at home, I'm with my family. And it just becomes like you remember like painting as a kid. You're starting out. Never used this metaphor before, so bear with me. But you start out, you've got all these different colors, and your blue is blue and your red is red, and you start painting, and then you start trying to clean your brush off. But after a while, I've got 6 kids, so this is a big part of my world. Messy paintings. But after a few minutes, like all those colors mixed together, there is no red, there's no blue, there's no green. It's just this messy mix, and all those colors have have they've infiltrated those boundaries, and you can't tell them apart anymore. And I think a lot of people, especially entrepreneurs, have a tendency for their lives to look like that.
I would agree. I have 3 kids myself, and brown is the color that comes to mind immediately
Yeah.
because when everything just mushes together, and then of course it gets on the walls. So you've not only messed up the plate, you've messed up everything that surrounds it too. I think it's a good metaphor, and we could probably take that further than it needs to go. But when we're in that final stage of life where we're looking back, and this is I'm so curious about this perspective, because I'm not there, you're not even there, but you have clients that are there. And when they do look back, what are those things in terms of growing their businesses that you've heard at least are the most important to them that we should probably be focusing more on now, but maybe even mainstream, whether it's media, social media, other relationships? What are those things that were important to them that we've never heard that are important, that should be?
So one of the family, of course, is a big thing, right? But this idea of legacy, as business and your life being a legacy. And here's another piece of this idea of retirement being destructive. And we've actually, for a lot of our clients, we've stopped calling it retirement. We call it a job optional lifestyle or a work optional lifestyle, because the tendency for people to feel like I've retired, I've crossed that finish line, and I've contributed everything that I need to the world. And people can start feeling irrelevant. They might feel like they don't have anything to value, and it's super destructive. I believe that if you've hit a place of financial independence where you no longer need to go to work, you no longer need to run your business, maybe your business runs itself. Now you have an opportunity to make a bigger impact than you ever have before, because your life is not burdened by some of those other duties and responsibilities. So when somebody reaches a point of financial independence, I believe their biggest years of impact are still to come. I think their most exciting, most powerful moments in life are still ahead of them, because they don't have to do the things that that the rest of us working an 8 to 5 job have to do. Now, that doesn't mean to say you don't have tremendous impact in your business and things like that, but just even imagine your business decisions. If you have a business that is, I mean, all the debts are paid off in the business, people are running it for you. You don't have to worry about making payroll. You've got maybe a year's worth of payroll in the bank. We keep over a year of payroll in the bank. Like, we can make no money this year. Everybody still gets paid. Like, you make better business decisions because you're not making decisions based off of what does this quarter need to look like? What does next Tuesday's payroll need to look like? It's where my business to be and my life to be in 5, 10, 15 years down the road. I'm already making decisions about what is this business going to look like when I'm no longer a part of it, building a team around me, building people around me to make me less necessary, not irrelevant, but not necessary in the day to day. So I can pass this on, and having, again, that legacy, living for legacy is something that a lot of people don't do. We're so easily caught up in the moment, and which is, you already said, is very important, Brandon. I don't remember who said the quote, but there's this quote that the two most important time periods in somebody's life is forever and right now. And I think the challenge is to being able to balance the two, to be able to plan for legacy, to be able to plan for the long term, but still be present in the moment. And that's the struggle.
That's such a good perspective too. And I think I've never heard that phrase, the job optional. But I love replacing that in terms of retirement, because it's also, when you talk about all those things, in terms of running your business, it's stress optional too. I mean, you don't have to run your business day to day, or check to check, as some people would say it. You should be maybe sacrificing in the short term to get there as quickly as possible. And it's really just choose your hard, right? You can extend that for as long as you want, or you could do the work now that you're saying, focus on the right things and set up your business for, it's a succession plan. It's moving yourself out of the way. And yeah, it's not making you irrelevant, but it's just putting that focus somewhere else, delegating the day-to-day responsibilities to somebody else and to a team. I love the perspective. And this has been a phenomenal episode, but I do want to say that you have a book that's out at this point. Tell me a little bit about the book. I'll put the link on the screen, and it'll be down in the show notes for wherever you're watching and listening to. But what was your motivation for writing this book and getting it out to the public?
Well, it's a little bit what we just talked about. It's that idea of legacy. And, a lot of people are building a business, but if they're honest with themselves, what they've really done is they bought themselves a job, and they don't have something that runs itself. And when I say runs itself, I don't mean something that's completely automated, but you have, like you said, you've delegated, you put people in place. So for me, writing this book, Forging Financial Freedom, has been almost 2 decades of my experience in the financial industry, plus the experiences of hundreds of other people whose stories and challenges have been condensed into a couple hundred pages. And what it does, it took all those things out of my head and put them into a medium that now can be evergreen. And these are timeless principles. My team, my other advisors, my other planners, they can take this. My clients can read this. They can pass them on. It made something shareable. It made something scalable. So having a product or a message or a mission that can be scaled and that can be evergreen, I think, is super important for business owners trying to get to that next level, where they're looking to, again, build legacy through their business.
That's so awesome. Definitely go check that out. It's forgingfinancialfreedom.com. Again, it's in the show notes down below, wherever you're watching and listening. And all of Chad's links are down there too, so you can go check him out. But I have to ask you this last question. It's a question for a question, because I believe, or we believe here at What If, that powerful questions get you powerful answers, which is why there's an obnoxious question mark lit up behind my head. But I want to know, from listening to this episode, what is that one question that you would want the listener to think about for the rest of today, the rest of the week, until they get the answer? Really, what is that question that's going to help them think about their future and build their business and their legacy in the right direction?
I think we've already touched on it, but I'll just restate it. It's, what would I want my life to look like if I never had to go to work ever again and never had to produce another paycheck?
And that's why I wanted to ask the question, because it's so easy to listen to the whole 15-20 minute episode and just hear the information. Think about that. Think about that question wherever you are. think about that until you get the answer. And then, Chad, I don't know about you, but what's your method when you have that answer? Do you put it down on paper? You put it on your wall? What do you do with that?
Well, I actually have some of these things in notes on a phone because I iterate this. This is not a static thing. My goals, much different now than they were a few years ago, especially with 6 kids. Like one of the big things that's important to me now, as I do build autonomy and freedom even within this business, is being able to join my kids in their own ventures. I realize that between 6 kids, not all of them are going to want to be part of Veritas, part of my financial practice. So rather than just writing a check and sending them on their way, say, okay, go start your own thing. My daughter wants to own a bakery someday. So I need to learn that. I would love to learn that business with her. So those are some of the things that are important to me. Again, 6 kids. We live in Alaska. We're very isolated. We could drive all day and be in the middle of nowhere still. Like we can't realistically be in a centralized location where all our kids are probably going to end up. So for us, having the freedom to chase our kids and bother them wherever they end up and spoil their kids, our grandkids someday, that's really important to us, to not be tied down to any one area, to be flexible, where I can work and live from anywhere in the country, maybe even anywhere in the world. Very important to me because my kids might be spread out over thousands and thousands of miles. So all those things for me have changed. And that's why I review those on a almost daily basis.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love the question too, and it's really powerful for the direction of your life and the decision making in the now that affects the future. So, Chad, I appreciate you coming on here. This has been an insightful episode and one that I just wish more people took this mindset into their day-to-day lives. So, thank you for being here.
Hey, it's my pleasure. And we talk about the future. That's kind of that can be kind of a fuzzy thing for a lot of people, but you will meet the future version of you eventually. And I want folks to be proud of that meeting when they can look back at the future and look at their decisions today and say, okay, I was proud of the decisions I made. So yeah, hopefully it was encouraging everybody to go out and make their future selves proud.
I love it. I hope so too. If you want more Chad, forgingfinancialfreedom.com is his book. His website's down below in the show notes as well. Make sure you go check it out. Chad, thanks for being here. And wherever you're watching and listening, make sure you subscribe. We want to have you back every single day of the week, help you get to that future version of yourself in the best way possible, the most harmonious way possible. Imagine that, right? We'll see you on the next episode of Harmonious at Lunch. Thanks for being here.